folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you with our guest tonight, and is E.A. Koetting. Thank you for being here as we talk about death tonight.
I'm so excited to be on here. It's I have such a good time talking to you. It just feels like we're just a couple dudes just shooting the crap together. And so let's do it again.
I know. It really is nice to talk to somebody who, thinks on the level I'm thinking, and you can ask questions, and you got a rebuttal instead of, well, I don't know. And then it's like, doesn't make any sense. But you got to have that back and forth, that those opinions, and some people just don't have opinions. They just
don't you love when you throw out some kind of really cool thing that you're hoping is going to be a conversation starter, and people are just like, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, come on. And this is part of, one of the things I've gotten to say on my TikTok channel is I don't have all the answers, but I do like to talk. And as long as I can just frame it in that, like, I'm not perfect, I don't know everything, but good God, I like to talk about it and to try to figure it out and have some discussion over it. So, especially with today's topic now, where we're going to be talking about death, the afterlife, and the spiritual realms. I'm going to be honest right off the bat. I don't know, but I've got some really good ideas. I've had some really cool experiences that have pointed me towards a very hopeful place, but I'm not here to say that I'm the prophet of whatever. No, I'm just another guy that's trying to figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And same with me. I'm on the quest to ask the questions to different people. We had our Wayne Steiger on the other night, and he's got a different perspective over here, and I'm sure you're gonna have a perspective over there. And then next week we got another June, the author, coming on, and she talks to ghosts and things like that. So that is gonna be great too. So it's very good and interesting to get everybody's outlook on everything. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I love listening to Wayne. And part of the reason I love it is because I disagree with him on some really intense points where I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? No. And I love that. I love actually having, like, listening to somebody and going, you know what? But here's one thing about Wayne is I can think he's wrong, but it's really hard to go through the evidence and go, here's why he's wrong, because he is so smart and he's got his facts together. And so intuitively, I'm like, Wayne, I disagree with you, but I just can't prove it why. But, I know you're wrong. I just can't tell you why.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're totally right there. You got to have your facts together. You got to know your stuff. He does put together a great presentation with all the stuff together that makes sense, and then you're going to have to go and do your homework if you're going to argue with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what we're getting at tonight, we're going through the death realm, everybody. That's one thing that every single person here has in common with each other, no matter if you're black or white, or you're different culture or religion or whatever. It doesn't matter. We all have death in common. The question is are you prepared to die? And if you do, and when you do, when you do you know what's coming up? What's on the other side? Are you turning to dust? Are you going to heaven? Are you going to purgatory somewhere or some other place? What is it? And that's my question tonight. We'll start out. Is there more after death, first off, or is it just dust?
Oh, there's more. there's so much more after death that it becomes clear that these experiences of incarnations is just a blip on the screen, that there is something happening. There's a background reality that we keep returning to. And then we emerge into some weird phenomenal existence of three-dimensional space-time, and then we return back into that static background. And that it is, what. All right, so a death meditation that I've been doing for the past few years is to sit at my death altar, look into the eyes of the skeleton over there, and juxtapose our places. Understand, there's not much that makes me different from this skeleton. Biologically, with the matter in my body, very, very, very little actually separates us, and that's where I'm headed. That's where we're all headed, and that's part of the meditation is to come to terms on a daily basis. I'm going to die, and it's going to happen probably before I want it to, probably a lot sooner than I want it to. Even if I live to be another 50 years, that's still going to be too soon for me. And so, coming to terms with that on a daily basis, part of that meditation is I will inhale what's called death essence. It's an energy unique to necromancy and to the death realm. I'll inhale that and feel it saturating my body, making me heavy. And then I exhale myself, my energy, my identity, my thoughts, my dreams, hopes, ambitions, anything that I can feel as part of me, I exhale and give that over to death. And there comes a moment where I exhale, and that's the last piece of me. And I can kind of float suspended and watch all that's left of me floating into death and floating away. But then there's that question, what is it that's watching? If all of me is gone, everything I can identify as myself is floating away, there is still an observer watching it all happen. And that's the beautiful mystery of this, that regardless of whatever happens, there is that observer that is immortal, that cannot be killed. And I do believe that this is, in a way, a holographic projection of the divine consciousness. It's the all mind that's funneling through my mind. And so, yeah, but is there something else? Yeah. In fact, I think that this reality is the something else. I think this is the weird thing that we push ourselves into, and then we return back into the same. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that to begin with?
So you're saying that this is the experiencing realm, and then the real place we're from is on the other side, and we come over here to literally learn and play.
Yeah, it does, and so I don't love the idea of the universe as a video game type of thing, but there is that matter of and I do think that scientists are starting to catch on to this, that our consciousness is not in here, but it's being projected into here from somewhere else, some other dimension. And so, yeah, it is, and there's an interesting thing with people who have had near-death experiences, that there's almost always a profound feeling of returning home, going back home. And you don't want to go back to this strange place of the world and life. You actually just want to stay in the comfort and familiarity of your home and death. And so there is something really interesting with that. But with all that, also, one interesting thing, and I know F Kitty Cat in chat was mentioning NDEs as well, and something that a lot of people that have had NDEs come back with, that understanding there is something, but what I'm doing here is important. I need to stay here. It's not my time to go. And so even though this is a strange projection that we're projecting ourselves into, it's still very vitally important that we have this experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I've read a bunch of books, and this here latest one I've been reading, it's called The Secret of Death. And each one of those people that they're talking to says, when I get the other side, I got a nice house, there's plenty of land, I don't have any worries, la da 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 da. And then eventually I'm going to go back and have another experience. But in the meantime, when I get here, people are here to greet me. Everybody loves me. We're all happy here. And each and every one. Now, but here's the weird part. Now, this is a good one. Nobody says, "Oh, I got there and I was thrown into fiery pits of hell." Nobody gets up there and says, "Oh, Jesus came and held my hand and took me to the church and I got to pray for 500 years straight." Nobody says that.
Yeah.
Why?
You know what? So here's an interesting thing with NDE research. People do say that years later. Their first report, as soon as they come back, is it is not attached to any kind of religion or any kind of icons. Usually it's bright light, family members, or the really family members and ancestors are the things that come and greet you. But hardly anybody has a religious experience except for years after the fact, as they've told this story to the people at church and their friends at the sewing circle. They elaborate the story just a bit here and there until the story they're telling is, yeah, Jesus took me in his arms and I met Mary and whatever. And so yeah, it does start out as a I think a transcendental experience that your mind can't grapple with. And so as your mind tries to grapple with it, the only way of making sense of it is trying to put some sort of metaphor or symbolism on it. And honestly, I do think that this is the birth of religion, is from people having these breakthrough experiences and trying to describe it and doing a horrible job because our just trying to describe these things in any kind of way, especially right now we're able to use things like holographic projections and AI systems. We're able to use these metaphors to enhance the conversation, but even with that, we're still failing at really explaining what's going on in anything hyperdimensional.
Well, yeah, exactly. The thing is, in that context, did people come back and then start telling about there was, that they just met family and friends and stuff, and in order to be accepted by the religion that they may have been in, they started to change their story so it was acceptable, or maybe they gained fame and attention. Wasn't that movie recently where the kid went to the other side, and some movie about some kid, and he went to the other side and talked about seeing his grandpa and blah blah blah, and they wrote some books about it and stuff like this, and in the end he's like, it was kind of all made up, and well, yeah, but that's the thing. He died, and then when he came back, his parents kind of fed him the information until the kid kind of was brainwashed into believing that that's what he's seen and saw, and maybe he's seen something else, but he eventually figured it all out, and came out eventually.
I had a little brother that was several years younger than me. And so I got together with one of my sisters. I'm like, hey, let's play a little joke on Jared here. And so we just casually started mentioning his Hispanic nanny, which he never had. And you remember when you were a kid, and that nanny was so funny, and we pretend to a couple of the jokes that she would tell. And you remember that? And he goes, nah. And a couple of days later, he starts talking about the nanny. Oh yeah, Mom, remember the nanny? My mom goes, sure, there's no nanny. You never had a nanny. What are you talking about? Well, they told me. Oh, but it had gotten to the point that it had implanted the memory into his mind of a nanny that didn't even exist. And so this is one of the big things that they found with any kind of jury trials, is that your eyewitnesses are far from reliable. They're telling you not what happened, but what they think happened, what all the things that they've put into it, which is what we do. That's how we're making sense of our reality. But we can't take it all too seriously, especially after the fact.
Usually your first after some kind of an accident or after something happens, usually the first reports are the most accurate in terms, because after a while the news, the people shape their interpretation of what happens. Even like when you have an accident, even for my company, you have an accident, you're supposed to write it down right away so that you get you can remember, because after a while your mind starts saying, no, I wasn't standing over there, I was over there. No, I didn't turn that thing, I couldn't, I wasn't there. And really you were, but your mind has created a whole new story. And you're, and then if they have it on film or something, or camera, you're like, wow, I don't remember that. But that's what really happened.
A lot of the gurus that I worked with, specifically revolving around soul travel and attaining any of these higher transdimensional states of being, the big instruction that I kept getting was to drop mind. And just those two words, drop mind. And I was like, yeah, it's seemingly impossible to do because you're trying to use your mind to harness your mind. But there does get to be a point where you just have to stop thinking about it. Stop trying to understand it. You're not going to be able to understand it. Just accept the magnificence of whatever it is and let it flow through you. And then even after the experience, you do have to, if you're really pursuing a mystical life, you have to stay away from trying to make associations, trying to make sense of it. You actually are living in a place beyond sense. And this is why a lot of mystics will hit a stage in their evolution where they take a vow of silence, because they're like, I'm not even going to try to put thoughts and words onto this anymore. I'm just going to experience the experience. And through that, you do start to realize how much we filter our experiences with our language, with the words that we use to describe it. And, you're only using words in your mind when you're not fully engaged in the experience. If you're having a great time, you're just having a great time. It's only later that you think, oh boy, that was a lot of fun with Sally and da-da-da. And then you start putting the words to it, but lose yourself in the spiritual experience to the point that you're not thinking about it. Now with that, if you don't mind, I'd like to shift a little bit into the stages of death, because I do think that there are actual stages that you go through. So when your physical body dies, there is that connection of your mind, your emotions, and all of that to your body and to your life. You don't want to leave, and that not wanting to leave is more than just your emotions connecting to this world. There's an actual tether between you and your body. So a lot of systems have called this a silver cord, and it does indeed. When you're out of your body and you see it, it looks like a silver cord leading back to your body. That silver cord normally takes about 3 days to dissolve. So it is almost like an umbilical cord that it will just wither away and dissolve after about 3 days. And at that point, that's when the soul of the person can start to really transmigrate to the other realms. Now, if you're a mystic and you're pursuing these things in your life, you can probably speed this process up, and as soon as you're dead, get on with it. But if you're just going through the natural process is 3 days to dissociate from your body. This is really important because it took Jesus 3 days, and according to the mythology, to return to his body, to resurrect. And we see that 3 day cycle. I think Balder also had 3 days of death. We see this 3 day cycle happening quite a bit, enough that it's like, I think they're onto something, that they knew about this 3 day cycle, that it takes 3 days for your astral body to disconnect from your physical. But now, even at that point in the astral body, that's where most people are going to have an experience of heaven or hell or purgatory. All of those places exist. Anything that we believe and we think of can exist on the astral plane. And so they might go there and be trapped there in their hell that they've created for themselves for as long as they want to. The soul's not trapped in hell. The soul's not in heaven. Those are just further illusions that you're choosing to participate in. Usually that doesn't last very long. The amount of time people will spend in whatever the heaven or hell of their belief is, it's usually not long at all, because it is a very weak delusion. And so they'll break out of that, and at that point the astral body will start to die. And that is that's where you start, I think, losing yourself into the mystery of what we don't understand, because I can see those very clear distinctions of the physical body dying, the cord between the astral and the physical, then the astral body dying, but then at that point I think that's where the mystery happened. And with that, what I've come to understand is that it's not that you return to a realm of eternal rest. You're returning to the background static reality just to collect yourself long enough before you reemerge back into another life. And I was going to say back into this world, but maybe not this world, maybe another world, maybe another type of existence altogether. But I think that we are, by our nature, what we're doing spiritually is we are exploring the unexplored territories and trying to understand it and incorporate it into the body of the divine, the body of the whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ta-da.
Well, I've been reading. I've been reading on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I don't know if you ever read that, but basically, the beginning of it here that I've been reading, Can't read everything at the same time, but I'm reading a lot. But the idea is that you're learning about how to die. And that's the one thing they never teach. They teach you how to live, how to pay taxes, and go to school to learn how to live life and go do a job. And you take lessons to learn how to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever you're going to be. But when it comes to dying, something everybody does, you don't tell us anything. You just wing it. And everybody says the same thing, at least in my world. Hey, I ain't worried about it until I die. You know, but shouldn't you have, practiced that? Shouldn't you have learned a little bit about it? Everybody says, oh, and I know people here have said the same thing. I got guides and they're just going to help me through. Do you have guides? Are there guides?
Right. Yeah. Well, to answer that directly, yeah, I think there are guides, but I think that does need to be a personalized question. Who are your guides? Are you friends with them? Will you recognize them when they come up and they show up? Hey, Sally, yeah, good. I've been working with you for my whole life. I'm pretty certain I'm going to have Azazel escorting me to the next world, and I'll definitely recognize him whatever form he shows up in. And so, yeah, absolutely. But the practicing death thing, that is the point of the death meditations that I'll do. And one of these meditations is to imagine myself on my deathbed saying goodbye to the people I love most. And the challenge in this meditation is to push yourself to make it as raw as you can, to really feel like you're there, to really and get yourself to the point that you're sobbing and preparing yourself for that moment. Now, with that, in a lot of different branches of Buddhism and Hinduism, it's understood that what you focus your mind on, well, the overarching premise is where your mind goes, the rest of you follows. So if you're living in India and you're always thinking about America, at some point you're going to visit America because that's where your mind is at. And so similarly, when you're leaving this world, if you can focus your mind on where you want to go, then it is going to be a seamless transfer from one to the next. And so that is actually a meditation that people will undergo, is specifically to focus on whatever the heaven is or whatever the next thing that you want to incarnate as. Focus on that and push yourself to that even before you die. Now, I know there are a lot of monks in different Eastern traditions that will start to embalm themselves while they're alive, eating pine resin and pine needle broth, and a lot of different pine things that the whatever chemicals are in the pine, the terpenes or whatever, start to saturate into the body. So by the time they die, their body's already mummified, and that's and so they will, but for like 10 years, they'll be preparing for their death by just, eating only the things that are going to help, turn their body into a mummy. So it's nuts.
Yeah. They're preparing. They are on that road. But here I've noticed people have gone, they're in religion. And especially like if you're a Christian Catholic kind of person, you're terrified because, our God's a jealous God. He's wrathful. You're a sinner. If you did one thing wrong, you're going to burn in hell. And they're so afraid that they don't want to die because when they get there, oh my God, they're going to have to pay for all their sins. And so they're trying to hang on as long as possible, when it should be a peaceful death. We've heard many times how people, especially like the Native Americans, I do a lot of shows on that. And I'm going to die, I'm going to say my goodbyes, everybody. I'm going to walk in my hut or whatever, and I'm going to lay down, and in a little while I'll be dead. That's it.
So there was a Second Amendment advocate named Paul Harrell, and he was all over YouTube doing gun videos and showing you how to safely shoot your gun and how to reload it and do all the stuff. He just had a really cool, like, almost seemed like an uncle just talking to you through all this stuff. Really cool delivery. But he did this for several years, was a big figure on YouTube with the gun community. But he recently died of cancer. And he made a video that he put out that was very similar to that. He's like, well, guys, this is the end of my journey. And just like his normal happy self, as he's telling us, giving us his last words of advice. That's that there's so much fear over death in the Western culture. And I don't think it's natural. I think that it's being artificially pumped into us to be terrified of death, and to be terrified of illness, and to be terrified of anything going wrong. Well, you know what? Illness, death, and things going wrong is the nature of this world. And so, and I think the purpose is to keep us afraid, and as afraid as they can keep us. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, and that is true. So true. I mean, as many questions I've asked people, they are terrified. Where they think, oh, I'm going to heaven, I'll get to heaven. And then other people say, when somebody dies, oh, well, I know they made it to the pearly gates. They were good people. They made it to pearly gates, but I'm glad I'm here with all you right now. And it's like, what? You should be saying, well, I'm going to the pearly gates too. But no, you're saying, I'm glad to be here yet because I'm afraid to go there. Take that leap of faith. Ooh.
Yeah, I know I've sat in a few funerals where I have personal knowledge that person is not at the pearly gates, that they did not live a good life, and that I'm hoping that they're actually experiencing whatever retribution might come to a person. Which, to talk about that for a second, I do feel that if you leave this life with an unclear conscience, you will have to clear that. And so, if you believe in a hell, you might have to serve some time there until you figure it out. That there is a reckoning, and by no means does that mean, we've got to live a perfect life. No. I think you've got to come to terms with your imperfections. Because that I feel like that's the thing that needs to come out. It's not that you need to be punished for your sins. It's that you need to not lie to yourself. That you need to actually see it clearly and go, oh yeah, I fucked up, and now I got to not do that again in the future. So,
well, yeah, and that's one of my questions too. Is when you get there, are you the judge of yourself? Does somebody judge you, and what right do they have to judge what you have done? Right?
Yeah. So in my soul travel experiences, I pushed myself to try to go as far into the afterlife and underworld as I could. And I did find myself snapped in one of my, I'm trying to get somewhere else. And all of a sudden I'm brought in front of this judge, and he's standing at an enormous pulpit, and he's a minotaur and just enormous horns, and he's got this robe on and a huge like mallet gavel, and he's got what look like jackal-headed guards standing next to him, and he starts going through the list of the things that I've done wrong in my life, and the things, and he and before I could even hear any of it, I came to the same realization: who are you to judge me? And in that moment, I went back to my ceremonial magic training. You're talking to the creator here. I am Adonai. I am Yod-Heh Vav-Heh, the creator of all things. Because indeed, each of us is. We are reflections of the omniscient creator. And so, as such, I just entered that space, and the courtroom just dissolved in front of me, and it was like, okay, cool, yeah, now I'm free. Do what you want to do. So I think that is a test that you're going to have. If I think there's a common enough experience for people experiencing a judgment and a life review after their deaths, that I think that is a thing. But I think that any externalization of it is going to be an externalization of the internal. You're giving the judge the power to tell you, if you're worthy or not. So, yeah. It's it. Once you give your power away, and that brings me to the next question and my video clip. We got to have a little fun here. Do you have a soul, and can you sell your soul? As you may have heard in many a tall tale and song, and
Charlie Daniels song, Johnny Rising Up Your Bow and Pale Your, he's gonna sell his soul, trade his soul to the devil. Is that even possible, or is that just make believe?
So up here above that arm on the wall, I've got a piece of paper that says, "I relinquish my soul to Satan and deliver myself to eternal torment in hell in exchange for all knowledge and all power, above, below, within, and without." It's fun. It's a fun way of playing with a mythology. Is it real? No. Your soul does exist, but I mean, soul exists. It's not yours. It's not mine. It is soul that is again the divine center of all things, that is emanating through all things, and we just happen to be experiencing that in a very personalized manner right now. But 100%, it is a matter of your soul's not yours. It's not yours to sell or to buy. The demons have no interest in your soul at all. But it is an interesting exchange. Now, what do you mean by these kinds of statements of "I sell my soul"? Well, I dedicate myself to this thing unwaveringly. That no matter what it is I must do in service of this task, I will do it. And so these pacts that I make it with the entities that I am that I know that I'm going in the same path and the same route as they are, and we're going to work together. So for me, it's a really fun, super exaggerated way of just making a commitment, going, I'm going to do this, and I'm along with you. And sometimes also the idea of crossing the line of selling your soul, it is crossing a line. It's like, there's an inhibition in me that feels like that's too far. And whenever I see something that's too far, well, that's what I've got to do next. But is there any reality to it? Can you sell your soul and the demons will come and try to collect you? This is secretly what I'm actually hoping for. I don't think that that's true, but I'm secretly hoping for it, because as you can see behind me, I've got a bunch of these packs on the wall. I want there to be a second or third or fourth war in the heavens over my soul. I want entities from every different religion coming to claim my soul at my death and creating a whole, hopefully that sparks off the final battle of Armageddon. We'll see.
or you could just sell your soul for a guitar song, as we're going to share here. And this is where it all comes from. I remember the song, the movie now. It's "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Okay. And so we're gonna. Yeah, I remember. Where'd it go? Oh, there we go. Okay. And I hope this. Oh, I gotta stop. Hang on. I forgot to hit the sound button. Wouldn't be good without the sound. I hope this thing's coming in all right too. Yeah, because everybody seems to be having trouble with their internet. Otherwise, Lucky'd be here tonight as our co-host, but not happening. No internet. Here we go.
Give you for your soul, Tommy.
But they taught me to play this here guitar real good.
Oh, son, for that you traded your everlasting soul?
Well, I wouldn't use me. I've always wondered, what's the devil look like?
Well, of course, there are all manner of lesser imps and demons, Pete, but the great Satan himself is red and scaly with a bifurcated tail. He carries a hay fork.
Oh, no, sir. He's white. As white as you folks. With empty eyes and a big hollow voice. He loved to travel around with a mean old hound.
So, did you get that? He sold his soul so he could play, to play the guitar, and he's telling him, so one guy, see, this is the difference in opinions on these things. He's red with a big old tail and, pitchfork, and the guy's like, no, he's a white guy, white as you, has big old hound dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's fun. I'll tell you what,
didn't have any sound to it. I turned it up as loud as I could. Everybody's wondering why I didn't have any sound, and I'm sorry to say that's just the way the video was. So if you don't remember it, is what it is. Sorry.
Yeah. Whatever. It was worth a try. But the whole selling your soul at the crossroads to the devil, man. That's I'll tell you what. I was playing my bass guitar when I signed that pact, and I don't know that I've seen my playing go up at all. So I'll tell you what. And then furthermore, have you actually gone and listened to Robert Johnson?
No.
Okay? It's not great. It's not great. The greatest thing about him was the legend. I don't know. I mean, and sure, maybe he was turning things around at the time. It was a style that nobody else was doing. Also, it's a style that nobody's done since because it wasn't a great style. It wasn't great music. But what was great about it is he had this awesome story about selling his soul to the devil. And so that's the really interesting thing. But there is that story amongst a lot of rock musicians that Eddie Van Halen has said it. A lot of different musicians have said they owe their success to the devil. And that's an interesting thing on its own. But Nina in the chat, Nina Mystic, love you. She says that this is all the church pushed out this whole the devil thing and selling your soul, and 100%. And you can just see them as spirits and being things that you work with. Here's what I think that rock musicians and people selling their soul to the devil, what it is, just like mine there. It is a declaration of I'm not going to live by the rules of this world. I'm not going to worry about what other people think about me. I'm just going to do my thing. And if that means I'm homeless playing my guitar, I'll be homeless playing my guitar. And I think that's the kind of fury and passion that's required to break through with any kind of greatness. And so, people who are willing to sell their soul to the devil, I think a more honest way of approaching that would be just to say, you know what, I'm just going to go all the way and I don't care what the repercussions is, because that's the spirit of it. That is the spirit of it. I'm going to do what I want and I don't care what the consequences are. I'm going to get what I want to get. And so 100%.
Yeah. See, and I was talking with a buddy of mine. He's in the chat. He knows who he is. But anyway, we were talking about the earth and religions and selling your soul thing and all of this other stuff, but in magic perspective of who owns the earth, and we realize it has to be the dark side. The earth is the dark side, really, because everything is so inverted that the religion, Catholic religion is dominated, and they'll say, oh, we're about love and peace and everything, but if them people don't believe, go kill them. But do it in a nice way. And what other religion carries a cross around their neck? For instance, they have a hold a cross of, okay, our Savior was killed on this cross, and who killed him? We did. And that would be like saying, somebody was on the gallows, and now we carry nooses around our necks because,
right.
We want to remember. So we got a noose that we hang around our neck because we're remembering that we hung him and killed him dead.
Yeah, I know.
The logic there.
Jesus would have already returned if people stopped, praising his death so much. They kept worshiping his death. He's like, fuck, I'm not going back there. Those people are crazy.
And if he did come back, they would kill him again. They would be like, oh, man, he's back. We got to put him on the cross again and have him save our souls.
Well, I'll tell you what. So there's a really interesting thing. There's a pathway that I followed with Become a Living God that's been drawn out before with people like Jesus, with Friedrich Nietzsche, with a lot of different thinkers who really got shunned by society, really put this out. This one phrase will get them to all of the powers of this world to come against you. That phrase is, you are God. Not me, I'm not God, you're God. You're God, you're God, you're God. Everybody's God. We're all God. That's the biggest that's the biggest thing that nobody wants to, that the powers that be don't want us to understand, because they have to be God. God has to be God. Religion has to be God. As soon as you're God, that puts the power right back in its rightful place. And so that's 100%.
Well, and that's the thing. We've been told that you are nothing. You are not powerful. God is powerful. And that's why you have to bow down and worship him. And I think, wait a minute. I realized later on, I don't want to bow down and worship anybody. I'm not worshiping anybody. I'm me. I'm a powerful being trapped in this meat suit body. I am a powerful being. And, like you said, I am God. I am a creator. I can go out and I can bake a cake. I can fix something. I can make something. I'm a creator. I imagine it in my head and I go out and I create it with my two hands right here.
When I was 12 years old, I moved up to Washington State with my dad. My parents had gotten divorced, and I did a couple years with mom, and she started just losing her mind. So I went with dad. He moved up to Washington State, and right up to a little town called Squim. Right, it's just beautiful, beautiful green everything. And my dad was Mormon, and so I started going to church with him again and getting into the whole church thing. And church was always, it was like I was always searching for it. I'm sitting in this building going, well, come on, come down, come into me. I'm eating the bread, I'm drinking the water. Good God, just show yourself. But then we went on this hike with the Boy Scouts. We go on this hike with the Boy Scouts, and we go up on this week-long, there's a boardwalk that leads up through the mountains and then drops down into the into the ocean. It's beautiful, just the most beautiful. But there was a moment there where we hike and we actually get above the clouds, and we're looking down and we can see patches of clouds and then the whole nature. And I got the feeling I was looking for in church. I got it that was the first time I felt that in my life, of a humility, because there is something so much greater than me. Whatever put all this into place, I can't even put. There's not a body or a name that goes to that. The beauty of creation itself hit me so hard in that moment that I was like, and I even turned to our scout leader, who was also our young men's leader in church. I'm like, this is where God is. And he goes, whoa, let's not get crazy here. I'm like, no, this is where God is, right here in nature. And it's like that, because that is when but there is an experience, and that there are so many people that have never been out of a city, and that's so terrifying to me. I've got a few clients who are suffering because they're sensitive people living in a city, having to deal with everybody's negative energy and negative thoughts and negative talk, and the program. Dude, you drive around a city and you're being programmed by electronic lights flashing things at you. No, you got to get out of that and get into nature, because that is where the spirits are at. That is where God is at. If you're searching for God in a church or in a person, that's not it. No.
Yeah. No, and we, the thing is I think that's been, I think some of the religions, especially the Catholic religion, Christianity and all, it took you out of that nature, like the pagans. They incorporated some of the pagan traditions and put it into the church, but they made you go to that building, that steeple with the, look powerful and big, and you went there and went, oh my goodness, this is just, because you notice they're always so big and huge, bigger than all the other buildings in town, and then you just takes your breath away. But in the same time, what's even bigger than the church? That nature, that being above the clouds, like you were talking about. Once you see that, no church can compare to that.
It's an interesting thing in Norse Viking mythology. You've got multiple sets of gods, and each of them are representing very interesting things in our society and civilization and whatnot. But you've got the gods that are mainly worshipped are called the Aesir, and like Thor and Odin are the Aesir. These are the gods that most people consider to be the gods. But then there are older gods called the Vanir. When you look at it, the Vanir are older and they're nature gods. The gods of the Aesir, the gods of the heavens, are gods of progress. So the Vanir, the gods of nature, hey, everything is just as it is. You've got this beautiful lake here. You've got these beautiful trees. What more do you need? That's when these interestingly, all of the Asir, showing up as usually as white males that are here to dominate. And I'm going to put my building right there. We're going to put a fence and a wall around this building and start building things onto there. And there's an interesting dichotomy there of like progress dominating nature. And is it better? In some ways. I mean, I think I think a case could be made for progress being good. I think there's also a really strong case, especially right now, for it being bad. I honestly kind of think we need to put the brakes on it and go back to living in the trees for a little bit and get back to sanity.
Well,
and get back. I'm sorry, real quick. With getting back to sanity, it kind of ties back into the topic of the day. It is living in the trees, living in nature. You are going to witness death in a way that we don't. That we have our death delivered to us in plastic packages that we unwrap and eat. We've been very disconnected from the life-death cycle, and I think that's a big part of why our civilization is dying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I think you're right. We'll go back to, you almost made me forget, Norse mythology. I'm fascinated by it too. If you look at that, that's more nature stuff there. You got that big giant tree and of life, and behind them, so everything is wood. And they also use animals. Odin has his crows, and Thor is riding a chariot with the goats. Things like that. Animals, nature. Whereas once it gets into the Christianity religion, then you have symbols and signs and artifacts, and you have crosses. They kind of took the nature out of it. It's wine and bread and crosses and chalices, the cup and gold, and making things look rich and modern, maybe I should say, instead of nature. Man-made instead of nature. If you really get down to the nitty-gritty.
There's something my brain's not finding the exact connect. There's a connection there with that and being cast out of the garden, cast out of nature. You were once in nature, but now you're not allowed in nature. Now you got to go toil amongst the roots and kick amongst the thorns and hate life. And so that's a really interesting. I do think, the Garden of Eden story, I do think that is a telling of dramatic climate changes that were happening because of different things, probably asteroid impacts and solar flares and all kinds of stuff. All the stuff we're about to see here in a few years happened back then. So, yeah. But, yeah.
What? History repeats itself. Okay, so I study the Native American stuff a lot. When the white man came to the Americas, and I read it in some of my books, he searched around and he said to the savages, where's your church? Where's your God live? And they were like, what church? We're standing in it, literally. The great mystery is all around us. He's in the grass. He's in the trees. He's in the ground, in the water, and the birds and the animals. You need to pay attention to the world around you, because God speaks to you all the time through these, your environment, not through a idol or through a church or a priest. It speaks through the environment. You got to read the signs, and I think, and of course that was just blasphemy. Oh my gosh, you don't have a church, you don't have idols, you don't worship your God, you're not fearful of your God. Oh my goodness, what kind of religion is this if you're not fearful of your God?
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. If you didn't have, they couldn't control you.
Right. Well, yeah. In my area, I've got mainly the Shivwits. Paiute is the main band and tribe here, but then we've got the Navajo that they kind of intermingle, and so there's a lot of Navajo and Shivwits things that circulate around here. But So I was kind of raised around it and pushed myself into trying to look into that and learn some of the ancient teachings, especially where their teachings relate to the land I live on. I think that's very important, that their teachings, relate to the land I live on. Hey, the juniper, which grows right here, it means this, and the berries are the ghosts of our ancestors and whatnot. And so all these things are beautiful. But there's an idea of the Great Spirit, which is a spirit of connection. The Great Spirit is in everything. And it is intelligent. It's super, super conscious. It's as smart as everything all added up together. And it is directing and guiding everything. And its spirit is manifested through you and through plants and animals by giving and by sharing and by connecting and by doing these really loving, peaceful things. And that's how the Great Spirit is manifested. But then you have the evil one or the enemy. And with that, it's the spirit of selfishness, of taking for yourself and trying to always get yours before you give to others. And just with that simple dichotomy, it's like, okay, if we can apply that to religions and gods, it's real easy to see who the evil and the good ones are. Okay, the good ones are the ones that are wanting to help you and to give you and to show you and to be with you. And the evil ones are the ones that are wanting to restrict and put barriers. You can meet me as soon as you go through my priests and my wizards and my popes, and then maybe if you know the right handshake. I was raised Mormon, so there's a whole, you've got to literally know the right handshake to get into heaven. And so it's like that's showing very clearly the separation and the selfishness is showing you that's a and good and evil aren't the right terms. That's a destructive spirit that will lead you to destruction. And they have a whole philosophy about this with the Anasazi. The Anasazi was a band of natives that decided to worship the evil one. And by that, instead of helping their neighbors, they started going to war with all their neighbors and stealing from their neighbors. That tribe didn't last long before it just was instantly devoured from within. It didn't even last a single generation. It didn't even last one single full generation. And so with that, it is like they thrived for the time that they roamed for sure. Everyone in the area has heard the name of the Anasazi for sure, and the name Anasazi actually means ancient enemy. And so it is like, yeah, you can get a lot of power with that destruction, but it will destroy you. Don't just be clear about that. It will destroy you. I'll tell you, that's my biggest warning I give to people about death magic and curses and doing evil things. If you got to do what you got to do it. But making that your life, you start to surround yourself with those powers, and you're going to become destructive. And as you become a destroyer, you also will be inviting destruction into your life. And so you've got to not just balance that out, but overbalance it. Put most of your attention, just like the Navajo would say again, the wolf that you feed is the one that grows bigger. And so feed the things that you want to actually have grow in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple little questions on that. On your travels and trips through to the other side there, did you never then did ask you for a secret handshake? I imagine said, "Hey, we can't help you, because you don't know the secret handshake. Sorry, and or the secret code word."
So you will get blocked. Yeah, you'll have doors that you.
Really?
Yeah. Here's the secret password is, you will let me in. I am the creator of all that is, and you will let me pass. Whatever words you want to put to that, but it is asserting like you're not one to block me. In fact, all of this is my creation. I am the God that walks through this realm now. And then every single time, if you believe it as you say it, every single time they let you pass. If you're I'm God, they're not really going to hit you with it. But if you're able to actually fully believe that and embody that and say the words and understand you are the divine. And again, any of us can do this at any time. This is one of the things I've found interesting with people who have had what do you call it, poltergeist issues in their homes, or hauntings, or even people who've had alien abduction experiences that have been able to make it stop by praying to whatever God or commanding it to stop. Just and it's not a matter of, it's not necessarily Jesus intervening because you're calling on his name. It's the fact that you're asserting yourself as a divine being and asserting your will. And people have literally been aboard an alien mothership, and they've had to take them back home and put them in bed because they asserted their will.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I remember listening to, I don't know if you ever heard of Jeffrey Daughtry, the Christian whistleblower guy. Back in the day, I watched him a lot, and he's over on Rockfin now, I think. But anyway, he would always say things like, I could have casted out demons by saying, "Get out in the name of Mickey Mouse," as long as I, used it with power. I could have said any name I want, he says. It would have been the same if I used my name, Mickey Mouse, God, Jesus, whatever. But you were being assertive, and you were using your power. And I think there's, something in
so
that.
There have been experiments that have been done on this on a pretty wide scale with chaos magicians. Chaos magicians are really fun because they like to just play with everything. And so they got together, and this was back in the late 90s. They started getting together online and saying, you know what, the gods are just our creation. So why don't we use the Disney princesses? Each of them is now a goddess with their own attributes that are specific to that Disney princess. And so they deified the Disney princesses and some of the Disney villains and heroes, and started working with them magically. And they said their success rate was just off the charts, that they were able to not only tap into the archetype that those characters are built upon, but also all the children that have watched those movies and fed into those archetypes. And so, 100%. Yeah, you can use Mickey Mouse is a good one, or you can create your own. This is interesting. If you create your own God, it's not nearly as powerful because you know that you created it and nobody else has fed that God. And so just making up your own BS is not nearly as powerful as piggybacking on something that already exists.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's so true. We got a good question for you. I know he's been dying to ask this question. Awesome. What has Black Magick done for you?
Unraveled the illusion and the delusion of reality. It's allowed me to so this whole world, this whole reality is a machine. And Black Magick has got me on my hands on the levers of that machine, that I'm able to play with it and adjust every aspect of this world, my life, but also I can create worldwide headlines at will, and I do just for fun sometimes to see what would happen. What would be the weirdest thing to show up in the news tomorrow? Let me turn some of those dials and make this happen. So it has given me access to the control room of reality. Just that little stuff like that.
Well, which is good. I mean, it is a good thing. Control reality.
Here's a truth behind it, though. That control room of reality exists within every single spiritual system. I could have found that within Mormonism or Catholicism or Buddhism or any other path that I wanted to pursue. Black Magick is unique in that it's allowed me. Black Magick is a systemless system, a pathless path. I don't have to have any rules. I don't have to follow anybody's commandments. I can do whatever the heck I want, and make, as long as I can make it work for myself, I can make it work for myself. So Black Magick has given me the freedom to use whatever archetypes and idols and symbols and systems that I want to use completely freely. Whereas if I bound myself to any one system, which you have to do on the right-hand path, you have to choose a side. You have to choose a team and only root for that team. And that's just a game I refuse to play. And so Black Magick has allowed me access to that control room without the dogma that you'd have to go through for any of these other systems. Because I got, in every single religion that I've come across that seems like it has the truth, I've thrown myself into that and gotten to the point that I'm at the highest levels that you can get to in most of these organizations. And every single one of them has the exact same BS behind it, that it's all, the higher you get in any spiritual organization, the more it is about suppressing other people from having their own experiences. So
that is so funny. So because, and I totally agree with you on this, because, well, I'll tell you a funny story, and I'll make it quick because we've been on for quite a while. But anyway, one day, me and my buddy decided to check these things out. What's these differences between these religions? And I somehow looked it up on YouTube. How to become a Jew. So I looked that up, and it says the 3 things you need to become a Jew. Repeat after me. This, so if you say these phrases, and then it would say, after, you are now a Jew. Like, hey, buddy, we just became Jews. Okay, let's look this up. How to become a Muslim. Now, this is what you do. Repeat after me. Say these things. Blah, blah, blah. I am da. Okay, you are a Muslim. And I'm like, so that day, after about doing 3 or 4 of them, we became like 3 or 4 different religions. It was hilariously funny, because I'm thinking, well, repeat after me, do these 3 things. I believe in the one and only God, And you're right. Then we discussed this, and I say, that religion has like 5 classes. They have 5 grades, like you're in high school, right? Or grade school. You go grades 1 through 5, and then you repeat. You never get to finish and graduate. The thing is that I want to graduate. I don't want to go back and repeat 1 through 5. I already know about Jesus and Christmas, and he gets born, and in a few months he dies on the cross in 3 days, and blah, blah, blah. And then we have the what happens after for a few more months. And then Jesus is born again. And we do it all over every single year. How am I learning anything to become more than Jesus is born and Jesus dies? I want to go farther than that. I want to learn about dying. I want to learn about living. I want to learn about the afterlife. I want to learn about what's on the other side. If I imagine, and this is the big question too, if things are here like they are, kind of in a pyramid, you got the president and it works his way down, and local level, etc. You got your boss, and you got the house, and da. Is it not going to be the same on the other side? You're going to have a boss guy over there telling you what to do, or not everybody's going to just say, well, I am the king, because everybody's going to be saying, you have to listen to me when I tell you to do this, because everybody's going to be that. There has to be a guy in charge.
Yeah.
Or above you.
Much like we see in this reality, this reality is a manifestation of the other energetic states. They're condensing into more and more solid states, and so what we see here is a reflection of what exists elsewhere. And so with that, you do see. Here's what you do see. Very much like here, you see localized governments on the astral plane. So if you're Christian, you've got a whole, and not even Christian, if you're Protestant, if you're Lutheran, if you're Episcopalian, all these different identities, they have their own little realm in the astral plane that has popped up. And so that's going to be ruled by all of that. And I do feel that source consciousness is flowing through all of this, kind of having fun with all these games of control and domination, and I'm the one in charge. And it is that old saying of man plans and God laughs, that ascends to all levels. That it's like, oh, you're playing this fun game of you're all in charge. You're all this consciousness experiencing itself subjectively through all these different forms, thinking they're in charge. It's like, yeah. So it's like when I'm driving, I like to drive fast. So when I'm driving down the road and I get behind a slow driver, I try to relax and just remind myself, that's just the part of me that likes to drive slow. In order for me to love to drive fast, there's got to be a part of me that loves to drive slow, and that's that goddamn guy right in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. It's always that way, isn't it? The guy is either going too fast or he's going too slow behind you, and he's I hate that because I hate to say it, I'm the slow guy. I'm always the guy that you're the guy behind me going, oh gosh, turn, he's doing 2 miles under the speed limit.
That's funny. That's funny.
But no, yeah, no. I've been like I said, I've been thinking about this, and the idea I have is to bundle up with knowledge now, because when you get to the other side, that's about the only thing you're going to be able to take with you is your knowledge and your because you can't bring. They say you can't bring your money with you. You can't. You can only bring your knowledge and memories. I'm going to come hang out with you because I think your idea is going to be a lot funner than some of these other ones. I don't want to hang out with them.
Yeah, no, and I think you really hit the nail on the head earlier where you said we need to be practicing dying. And so what does that mean? Practice letting go. Everything you love is going to die, or you're going to die and leave everything you love. One way or the other, everything you love is going to go. And so right now, I'm used to letting it go. Just emotionally, you know what? And as a parent, this is really difficult to let go of my daughter in any kind of way, but that's part of the meditation. I'm going to die someday and leave her behind, and she's going to die someday, no matter how much I want that to not happen. And so come to terms with it all. Let go, let go, let go. That's even, it's funny because on the path of Black Magick, we're trying to control everything. We don't want to leave anything up to circumstances. So we're going to call demons and make sure that we're getting what we want out of life. But the biggest secret to it all is you have to let go. As soon as you let go of it, that's when it comes to you. As long as you're squeezing it, that's when it's running away.
Yep. I totally agree with that. And that's one of the big drawbacks, living in this life, is because you're told how to hold on to stuff and want more, and you become a hoarder because you can't let anything go. And when something does happen, it just makes people freak out and they go crazy because, oh my gosh, I had to lose. I lost something. I lost a person or a house, or I lost a photograph. Oh my God, my world is ending. Anyway, as we get on with this, I want to give a big shout out to everybody that's here and has been participating in the chat. We've had a bunch of great chatters. We got Nina the Mystic. We got Joanne Dancing Gypsy, F Kitty, Lady Spitfire. We got Sunset Dreamer, Steve Bow, Scotty Boy's in the house. Let's see, we have Ginger Grin came to see us tonight, and Pamela Jean, she's probably over there with Max Vision and Lucky Stone. Let's see, who else did we have in here? I know there were some other people in here right in the beginning. They're probably listening because it was let me get up to the top here. There's a lot of people. Regine Hutchelson, there you go. There, I knew. Peachy Keen is in the house, and Savage Lee. So anyway, thank you, and Warrior for What Is Right 33.3. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, and a big shout out to Nina, who's got stuff for her merch with shirts with my picture on it, just like this one, mugs that say Happy Holidays and with the Ana Karana on it, and my picture. Go out, get yours today. I know I ordered a few yesterday, so get that. Any last thoughts about death? Are you just on that? Since you're talking about it and you're practicing it, are you prepared? If you were to go tomorrow, are you prepared?
Whew. I'm going to be honest. I think that I don't think so. I don't think so. I'll be honest with you. Not nearly as much as I'd like to. No, I'm not. And I don't. Gosh, I just don't know. It's so hard. It's so hard to let go of this life. Like, even though it's been I'll be honest with you. This has been a hard life. This incarnation. There's a lot of times I'm just ready to get on to the next one. until that moment gets close. Because whenever I've had many close to death experiences, and I've had some near death experiences, and with those, every time I come back going, whew, I'm glad to be alive. Whew, glad I made it through. And so there is I do love life, and I don't think tomorrow I won't be ready to let it go. Maybe the next day. We'll keep working on it.
I'm getting more. You'll get that way the older you get, because when I was younger, I didn't even think about death. I mean, if I died then, I would have been too attached to everything. And I seem, as you get older, you get less attached. And I'm learning that from, believe it or not, my parents of all people, who in their older age, and I think this is with a lot of people, because I kind of seen it with my grandma, but I couldn't understand it then, because as she got older and last year or two of her life, she started giving everything away. You went to her house and I really like that. Well, take it. It's yours. She gave so much stuff away. My parents are doing the same thing. I go there and they're like, here, take this picture, take these bowls, take this, take that. We're just getting rid of. I'm like, what? You've had that forever. Yeah, we don't need it anymore. Like, what? I just don't get it. But I think that's the part of letting go. You're letting go of the material world. And then as they get older now and they're doing this, I know that the end is coming soon. Scary, but it's coming.
Let me ask you one final question. Would you like to get any kind of sign from either of your parents after they've passed, a sign that there is something, that there's an afterlife, or would you rather just nothing and you can kind of just let them go? What would you prefer?
I would like to get a sign. It would be nice. I mean, yeah. I think like when my grandma passed away, that was an event for me. It was very peaceful. I went there. She was at the hospital. I went there. We talked. I held her hand. And we literally said our goodbyes. I swear, we said our goodbyes. And I knew that I wouldn't see her again. And the next day, I should have went and visited her, but I didn't. I kept saying to myself, I don't want to see her like that. But I said my goodbyes. It's all good. And then that night, she just died. Her heart just quit beating, slowed down to a crawl, and she passed away. And when I talked and I held her hand, I knew that she was saying, goodbye, I'll see you someday, but I'm never going home. I told her that too. I looked at her and she was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to go back home. I says, I know you're not going to go back home. I'm sorry. And I says, you're not going back home. And I think she knew, and I knew. It was just a mutual thing. It was very peaceful. I mean, we didn't, it was different, but it was good. It was good. I didn't,
I had a similar, when my grandma passed, I was really close to my grandma. With the abuse I was experiencing at home and all the craziness that was in my life, my grandma was, she'd let me come to her house after school, and I'd play my little recorder flute for her, and she'd tell me how amazing I was, and just, all the awesome grandma stuff. And when I was about 22 years old, she passed away. And I was strung out on every drug in the world. And I got the call. She was in the hospital, and she looked at me. She said, and I looked awful. I hadn't slept in weeks, and I was skinny, and I was homeless at the time, so I bet I smell. She looked at me and she said, "You're so beautiful." And she just meant it with every fiber of her being. And I held her hand, and like I just talked to her, and it was clear this is the last conversation I'll have with her, and it was just a passing back and forth of love. And then that night, I'm at home, and I smelled her perfume, just boom, hit me, and I heard her voice in my head, "Get off the dope." And that was how she always referred to drugs. Any kind of drug was the dope. Get off the dope. And that was that actually encouraged one of the first moments of real sobriety in my adult life, where it wasn't just a thought, that the smell of her and then the feeling of her, it was clear. And then about 2 hours later, I got the call, your grandma's passed. And so, so it is that there is, and I've had a couple other moments of having her come around, and every time I've smelled her and then felt her. And so there is something that exists beyond, and they can come and communicate with us.
That was a great sign, though. See, I'd love something like that. If they came by and,
Yeah.
you could smell them or, hear a voice of some sort. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, them walking in and sitting down and having coffee with you or something. But yeah, something very simple like that. It's just you just know, and
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, something like that. It's great.
Awesome.
That is great. Remember, everybody, holiday merch. Here's the link. It's in the chat. It's in my description too. So check that out. Get your mug. And with that, we're going to sign off. It's been a good hour and 15 minutes when we get done here. So thank you for joining me again. You're getting to be a regular Soul Tribe member here, eh?
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Glad being on. Thanks for having me. It's been an awesome conversation. And yeah, we'll do this again, I'm sure, not too long. Awesome. Wow.
Oh yeah. That's because we got all kinds of good stuff to talk about. I swear it. Every time something good, I'm reading your book too, man. I am really intrigued with your book. I am paging through that little by little, and I'll get to the end. But I bought the big book, the big hardcover, all of them together book.
Oh, my complete works. All right, awesome. We'll have to chat about.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, thank you. It's been awesome.
Okay, everybody, thank you for being here. And remember, as the dogs are barking, go out and do something nice for somebody else. And most of all, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.